So, I found Wicca when I was about maybe 16. I had actually found it in a book that had mentioned Dianic Wicca in it. And I'll get into that when I make my video on Dianic Wicca. And I didn't pursue it at first. I was kind of looking into other religions, like Baha'i, Hinduism, and I do agree with beliefs of those two religions themselves too. But as I started to get a little bit older, around 17, I was just kind of drawn, to the things I was reading about Wicca. Before that book, I had never heard of the religion at all. I've heard, of witchcraft, of magic and stuff, but never actually of Wicca. So I started getting books on it. My first book was The Idiot's Guide and another little spell book. I can't remember exactly what it's called right now, but it was just a basic spell book. Nothing too major, nothing serious, just, like money and success, that kind of stuff. So, nothing bad in it, nothing too deep or involved. I started out small. And, as I went on, I started learning that there are different traditions of Wicca, which is mentioned in the Idiot's Guide, but, I've been trying to learn more specifically about the traditions because I consider myself an eclectic right now. But I have read, I don't want to say bad things about it because I don't feel there is. I think the people who claim that have misinformation, which they usually do. But I have found that I may have beliefs that are not always among the Wiccan religion. Wicca is usually pretty open about things, but I notice there are beliefs that I have that are coming from religions outside of Wicca, and they're usually pagan, of the pagan religions, but some are coming from other ones. And the thing is that I found, it seems that people, or it can come off that Wicca is like the only pagan religion there is. And for a lot of people, it's the starting point into the pagan path. Because you will go to a bookstore and you'll find, in like the metaphysical section or religious section, whatever you want to call it, like in the Barnes and Noble, you will find books on witchcraft and witchery, and Wicca. Occasionally in Druidry. But the other ones are usually just summed up in little paragraphs in books that are, about general paganism. You won't really go to Barnes and Noble and find a book on Hellenism or Kemetism really there. I don't know if that's because Wicca is probably the most popular of the pagan religions right now, I believe, are the most practiced at this time. But I do find it very limiting on the knowledge you can have, because you really have to go out and search the internet for these things, and sometimes people just don't know that these religions exist. But I just wanted to put it out there that yes, there is more to paganism than Wicca. I myself think I am going down a Wiccan path, or mostly a Wiccan path, but I more consider myself an eclectic pagan because of taking from the different, belief systems. So I'm going to go over a brief overview of some of the ones that I knew of, okay? And these may have some incorrect facts to them, or may have left things out. So, please feel free to correct me if I've gotten anything wrong. But, okay, we know there's Wicca, which is basically neo-paganism, taken belief from like the pre-Christian times, and it's usually a practice of witchcraft. Not all the time. Not all Wiccans are witches. Not all witches are not all witches are Wiccans, but many of them are. Some people say that to be Wiccan you must practice witchcraft. Other people say no, there's a religious aspect to it. And as long as you believe in those religious things... Let me see. Okay. As long as you believe in those religious aspects, then you are Wiccan. And Wicca is basically the belief in a male and female god. Now the theism, or the theological aspect, however you want to say that, on it, or in it, sorry, really it does vary. But usually it's seen as dual theism because there must be a god and a goddess, whether you see them as many beings in polytheism, or two sides to one god, or two, opposites. There's at least a god and at least a goddess. But it's basically a dual theistic nature religion that honors, the opposites of things, male, female, sun, moon, stuff like that, which I covered in my What is Wicca video. Then there is Hellenism, which is the worship of the Greek deities. They go by the Greek myths and stuff like that, and they're usually hard polytheistic, from what I know. I don't think there's anything else in there. I could be wrong. There's the Asatru, which worship the Norse or Germanic gods, which I believe is throughout, of course, Germany, Norway, maybe Sweden, Finland, those kind of areas. I could be wrong on some of the countries, I could be leaving some out, but it covers that kind of northern area. The ones that worship Freya and Thor and stuff like that. So they follow that set of mythology, or their pantheon. Kemetism is the Egyptian religion. Follow the Egyptian gods, Bast, Ra. Well, actually, those are the Greek names for them, and I believe people who belong to the Kemetic religion usually try to use the original Egyptian name. I don't know if anybody uses the Greek versions. when they practice Kemetism. I can imagine if you're new to it, because the Greek versions we know of are the most common people know of. So, yeah, Kemetism is the revival of ancient Egyptian religion, and I've heard it being called monism, polytheist, the practice of monolatry. So I think to some degree, maybe not as fast, but to some degree like Wicca, the theism of the Egyptians, their theological belief, kind of varies like it does in Wicca. Like I said, not as fast, but I believe that it does. Hinduism, a lot of times is considered a pagan religion. And they primarily worship the Indian gods. Or the gods around the Indian subcontinent, I believe it's referred to. I believe to some degree, again, like Hinduism, I'm not totally sure if it's always considered that way. Voodoo, which I want to cover that too, because while I don't really hold too many of their beliefs, that's a religion that's really often misunderstood a lot of times. Voodoo is I think a mix of African and Caribbean religion. I think it mainly kind of came together, with the slaves. I know they have a set of spirits that you pray to rather than the main god, or there might be demigods. I'm not totally sure. I've heard mixed things on this. And I think to some degree Voodoo might be related to Santeria. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. And which is pretty much a mix of African religion and Catholicism. So yeah, there's a lot more out there, but I'm just kind of covering some of the most famous ones, or the most well-known ones. Yeah, so I'm continuing my search, because there's just so much out there to learn. And like I said, keep in mind that paganism, is more than just Wicca, and it's really more than just worshipping gods with funny forms and funny names that people might think they have, okay? Because yes, there is a lot of animal depiction in gods and stuff that people of the Abrahamic faith may not be used to, but there's so much more to it than that. It's about seeing the divine in everything. It's, respecting life, respecting nature, and the balance. So just keep in mind, do your research. Keep in mind that, there's more to it than just Wicca. And, do your research and find out for yourself what it really is.